It was a total moment of shock today, Raja and David, when the defense called Curtis Lovelace to the stand. Some people in the courtroom even audibly gasping at the announcement. Take a look behind me. I don't know how well you guys can see this, but this is a completely uprooted tree. You can see a trampoline, a swing set wrapped around it. Well, Raja and David, we knew today was going to be filled with some big decisions, and it definitely was. Judge Bob Hardwick ruled Lovelace's second trial will be moved to Sangamon County and will be pushed back to January of next year. And I'm joined here exclusively live tonight by CBS 48 Hours host Maureen Maher. First of all, Maureen, thanks for joining us. And we did just mention Erica Gomez. How do you expect her to impact this trial? Breaking news here inside the Adams County Courthouse. Judge Hardwick did just now declare a mistrial.
Jenny, what do you see as the big difference this time around?
Lovelace's second wife, Erica Gomez, as we know, she was banned from this first trial. She's the biggest difference in this case. A lot of people saying that she was the missing puzzle piece to why we're even here to begin with.
What's bothering me?
The aches and pains of life. Don't forget about people behind bars.
This is the first hospice room that we made up.
It's a fact 57-year-old inmate Bertram Burkett is reminded of every day inside the walls of the Iowa State Penitentiary Hospice Unit in Fort Madison, Iowa. Burkett takes care of elderly inmates in their last days as part of the prison's ADL, or Activities of Daily Living program.
You watch them die from getting sick to where they get so sick that they're not eating.
Burkett knows it won't be long before he's the one being taken care of, as he's serving a life sentence for first-degree murder of a 3-year-old girl.
This is it. And I understand that. You know, and working hospice, it gives you that finality. You know, you understand by watching somebody else that has a life sentence die, and they're not getting out. They're not going to give them a pardon or anything to let them go home and then die at home.
Few people may think someone like Burkett, a convicted child murderer, should be getting a pardon. But the American Civil Liberties Union says even nonviolent, white-collar offenders are growing old in America's prisons. And that's costing taxpayers big money. According to the ACLU, the number of elderly inmates has skyrocketed 1,300% since the 1980s, with prisoners aged 50 and older costing taxpayers nearly $68,000 a year to keep in the slammer, compared to $34,000 a year for the average prisoner. The Iowa State Penitentiary currently houses 164 offenders over the age of 51.
Within 30 minutes, we'll probably see 30 to 35 offenders.
And Tony Foley, a registered nurse with ISP, says taking care of elderly inmates is difficult.
I don't know how we're going to do it. You know, it's definitely a problem that's not going to have any quick resolution. It's going to be something that it's going to have to be budgeted because it's going to go through the roof.
Angels are for each patient that dies in this room.
As the walls inside prisons increasingly resemble nursing homes, is there anything that can be done to cut costs when it comes to keeping the nation's graying inmates incarcerated? ISP Executive Officer Rebecca Boker says maybe not.
With life sentences and mandatory minimum sentences, we're going to have that's just a portion of reality. I think the only thing that we can do to adjust to that is to continue to build like facilities that we are building now with handicap accessible environments and try to manage that population to the best that we can.
We'll be right out there trying to get a hold of you and show you where it's at.
Just today, dispatchers in the Schuyler County 911 Center
10-4, Truck 10.
were scrambling to pinpoint the location of a fire.
It's right behind Lloyd's house. It is a bulldozer fire.
As the current emergency telephone system doesn't include GPS capabilities and has no way of tracing where calls come in from.
The way it works now, we have to I need your name, we need directions to your home, and all of this takes time, therefore slowing down the emergency process.
While the fire turned out to be a minor incident, it's tense situations like today that Schuyler County Sheriff Don Schieferdecker says dispatchers see all the time.
Some people have been injured, they're unable to speak. Some people have been battered. They're unable to talk.
But Schieferdecker says if voters pass a $2.60 a month surcharge to their phone bills, the county could afford to install an enhanced 911 system.
It would come up exactly who the caller was. Through GPS, it would show exactly where the call was coming from.
It's an extra $32 a year. Some residents tell me they wouldn't mind paying.
It could really help older people or people in need to not be able to have to explain where they live.
You never know when you're going to need someone.
$32 a year for an emergency service, Schieferdecker says, is priceless should you ever need it.
What kind of price do you put on someone's life? There is no price.
This has been a long trial.
How are you doing?
I'm doing great, mostly because of the support system that I've had behind this. I don't think I would be able to handle everything without them. When I want to cry, when I just don't know what to do, I can talk to them. If I just want to talk about my mom, they're there.
Is there one memory in particular you remember most about Corey?
Dancing around in the kitchen to ABBA. I still listen to them just because of that, but we would just have girl moments and just dance around and sing and Dancing Queen and doing all that, and I think I listen to them because it still brings me so much joy from that. She was a real person. She was a beautiful person. She shouldn't be labeled because of this. Having her looked at in the limelight now is almost hard because she is not being seen as the person that she was.
What were you feeling the day that you testified?
I think it was just a matter of, wow, everyone's looking at me right now and they're listening to every word I have to say, and it's just, with not remembering, it's just terrifying because they're all wanting you to.
You have to differentiate, do I really remember that, or do I really remember what somebody told me I should have remembered?
It's almost frustrating not to remember because you want to, but in the end, if you can't remember. So you just have to say that and stay true to your words and just say, I'm sorry, like it was 10 years ago.
And that's the first time in a long time that you've seen your brothers.
Yeah, that was hard, not to have each other's support, because we've always been a very close relationship between the four of us, and to not be able to protect them the way I would and not be the big sister that I want to be for them.
You've also had every single detail rehashed out in court, out for the open for everyone to see.
It's almost like losing her again. I feel like at the age of 12, I had to figure out how to deal with everything. And even at the age of 22, I still have no idea how to do it, and I'm just losing her all over again.
There have been autopsy photos, there have been scene photos. You don't want to see those photos.
I see my mother as the beautiful, smiling woman that she was, and I don't want to look at those pictures because I don't want them to get embedded in my mind and take away that beautiful picture of her.
Do you go visit her? Do you talk to her?
Yes, I do, actually, most of the time when I'm back, and I'll actually have friends who are like, hey, we're going to go visit your mom today. And so they will drive me out to make sure that I'm still going, because sometimes it is hard to be like, okay, I'm 22 years old and I'm going to go visit my mother in some place most people don't want to visit.
What would she say to you to help you get through this?
Don't let it overcome you. Power through it and stay strong, and I think that's where my motivation of be a survivor. And they always say that it gets easier, and it doesn't. And I would never tell anyone that because I've always waited. Is it going to get easier? There are days where you don't even want to get out of bed. And then I think about her and I think about what would mom want me to do right now, and go to class. Do your day like you would. And so that is a huge motivation of, okay, get out and be you. Don't let it overcome you.
If it is a conviction or if he's found innocent, have you really mentally, have you prepared for that?
I think there's no way to prepare for any of this. Every day is just a new day, and you just go through it emotionally and you figure out how to deal with it. I don't know if the forgive is in my mindset, but I think it's more of moving on and moving forward with my life. I'm 22, going to be starting work soon, graduating college, so I just have to make sure I keep myself in mind and make sure I'm going forward with my hopes and dreams.
Good morning and welcome to the 6:30 half hour of KHQA this morning. I'm Jenny Dreasler. It is Wednesday, January 18th, 2017, and into a story new this morning for you. Former President George H.W. Bush has been hospitalized. Bush's chief of staff, Gene Becker, says that he was admitted to Houston Methodist Hospital after falling ill last night. Becker tells the Houston Chronicle that Bush is, quote, doing fine. This is obviously a very developing story, and we'll continue to give you any updates as the morning continues. And back here on the local front, Missouri Governor Eric Greitens delivered his first State of the State address at the state capitol in Jefferson City Tuesday night. The new governor focused on a lot of things, including job growth, and he outlined his policies on ethics, public safety, and education. He asked Congress to pass an overhaul of state ethics laws, including limits on lobbyist gifts and term limits for statewide office holders. Greitens also pushed the importance of making Missouri one of 27 states to have that right to work law. It's an issue Democrats say should actually be put to the voters instead. However, Greitens did highlight that the policy will create jobs. 6:34 this morning, and back to the news in the Gem City. School continues to be in session this week for Quincy Public School teachers and students after a last-minute proposal that could be a game changer in the district's contract negotiations with teachers. Now, hundreds of union members attended 2 separate meetings at the Machinist Hall in Quincy late last night. The new proposal was the result of a tentative agreement reached last Saturday in a Hail Mary effort behind closed doors. Now, no teachers would comment to KHQA on what exactly was discussed last night, but we are learning this morning Quincy Federation spokesperson Jen Drew says she's optimistic a fair final deal will be reached. Meantime, Quincy police are asking for your help this morning as they continue to investigate a report of shots fired on the city's northwest side yesterday afternoon. Police are not exactly sure what started this incident, but they do believe it began as an argument between a pedestrian and the driver of a dark-colored SUV. Here's what we know this morning. After those shots were fired, witnesses tell KHQA that they saw the SUV driving west on Cherry Street. However, it was last seen actually going south on 3rd Street. The pedestrian ran towards the east side of the town. Now, Patrol Sergeant Brian Dush tells KHQA that it's important that people are not afraid and do not hesitate to call 911 if they do hear any shots fired in their neighborhoods. And as always, if you have any information about that dark-colored SUV in the area, possibly with bullet holes in the side, you're asked to call the Quincy Police Department or Quincy Regional Crime Stoppers immediately. Alrighty, 6:37, taken kind of switching gears on a much lighter note this morning.
A little bit, yeah.
I don't know, running for us is not a lighter note. This is a bad idea. Good idea for him, but it's been several years since marathon runner Dave Jones ran away from his addiction. He has a new addiction this morning. Don't worry, it's a good one. He used to smoke 2 packs a day and had very little energy. Well, one weekend, he says, nah, had enough. So he threw out the cigs and developed a new addiction, working out. His workout space, he says, looks more like a trophy room. 6:39. Coming up next, 2016 was one of the deadliest years in tri-state history. We'll tell you why road fatalities rose so high and what you can do to make sure that those numbers go down in 2017. That story and much more next on KHQA This Morning.